Imagine a world without computers or satellite technology. A world in the early 20th century down on the farm, where people and animals worked much harder, and families grew their own food, made their own clothes, and built their own homes and barns. Let's travel back in time to the early 1900s in South Carolina.
Timber!
There's a house or barn to be built. That means it's time to go into the woods and find a tree to cut using an axe or cross-cut saw, and a lot of manpower. Once the tree is felled, it can be used either as a log or moved to a sawmill or shingle mill to be cut into lumber or other products. The first log home construction only required that the bark be removed from the logs before they were used for building. Mules or horses are used to transport the large trees from the forest to either the sawmill or shingle mill. At the sawmill, the tree will be cut into lumber. At the shingle mill, we'll make wooden shingles for the roof. The sawmill consists of a power unit, a large circular saw, and a carriage which operates on a track to move the log into the saw. The first part of the log removed is called a slab. Its removal begins the process of changing a round log into a square or rectangle for lumber. Each time a slab is removed, the log must be turned and secured to the carriage. The log is then aligned with the saw by using a ratchet to move the log the proper distance towards the saw. A cable powers the carriage that moves the log. As the slabs are removed, they're taken away to be used for firewood or left to decay. Once the log is squared, the saw operator begins to cut boards or timbers from the log into the desired sizes. During the sawing process, a lot of sawdust is produced, which is carried away by a chain under the saw into a pile. It may be used later for bedding or mulch. Some sawmills are powered by steam engines that use the wood slabs as a source of fuel to keep the fire burning. That heats the water and turns it into steam. Gasoline and diesel engines followed the steam engine. Some of our diesel engines are huge, like the one-cylinder 1925 Fairbanks Moorse diesel engine, as powerful as about 50 horses. The diesel engine can reach full power much faster than the steam engine. A gasoline gun or blowtorch is used to start the diesel engine by heating the glow plug in the fuel intake. It takes about 10 minutes to get the glow plug and fuel intake hot enough for the engine to start. Once the engine becomes hot enough, the heat of compression causes it to run and power the sawmill. Diesel engines are also used to power cotton gins around South Carolina. Planers smooth rough-cut boards and make them uniform in thickness. Planers are set manually and depend a great deal on the skill of the operator. The shavings produced by the planer are often used as bedding for livestock, like chickens or hogs. Just like the sawmill, the planer is powered by a steam, diesel, or gasoline engine. Some are powered by tractors, like this 1935 John Deere with a gasoline engine. Wooden shingles are used to roof homes and other buildings. Durable cypress or cedar trees yield choice, long-lasting wood for shingles. Hand tools are used to split blocks of wood into shingles unless a person has access to an engine-powered shingle mill, which can greatly increase production. A 1910s shingle mill powered by a gasoline engine squares the log or block like the sawmill, and then it cuts one shingle at a time. The operator must change the position of the block with each pass so that the shingle will be cut thinner on one end than the other. This tapering effect makes roofing easier. Corn is grown in most areas of the southeast. Some farmers continue to use a horse or mule to pull a manual plow or other tillage implement. As corn grows, the land must be cultivated. Once the crop matures and the corn dries, the ear is removed from the stalk by hand. Unless, of course, you're fortunate enough to have a snapper. That's a machine with two rollers made to break or snap corn ears from the stalks. A tractor pulls the machine through the field, as it also furnishes power to turn the snapping rollers, the elevators, and the fans. The wagon behind the snapper collects ears for transport to storage. Removing the shuck from the ear is also done by hand or machine, a process called shucking. That's before the ears are shelled. A corn sheller saves the farm family time and energy. Corn cobs are saved to fuel the family fireplace, and the shucks are fed to the mules. These are frugal times, requiring people to live by the saying, waste not, want not. To make the most out of corn for livestock, dried kernels are cracked. The small pieces of cracked corn are then fed to the farm's chickens, which supply eggs and fryer chickens for the dinner table. Some machines are run by hit-and-miss engines, an engineering design of great value until they were replaced by more efficient models. Corn grits and cornmeal are staples of the family kitchen. The grits are cooked in many different ways, and the cornmeal is used in bread-like foods, hoe cakes, and cornbread. The 1920s machine, which ground corn into grits and meal, is affordable for larger farms to own one. Those farmers no longer have to take their corn to the community's grits mill to have it ground. As we've already seen, many crops are grown and harvested with the help of a lot of human and animal labor. As farms become specialized and volumes increase, machines are developed to increase productivity and output and decrease the amount of labor needed. That includes the labor needed to produce small grains like wheat, oats, barley, and rye. The hand harvesting method involves the use of a curved cutting blade with a handle. The farmer uses one hand, normally his right, to cut the grain. The other hand is used to collect or cradle the cut stalks. The cradle, a more recent development in our times, can also be used with two hands in a sweeping or swinging motion to collect the cut stalks. Stalks of grain are bundled together after they're collected and left in the field to dry. Each bundle is called a shock. These crops are planted in late fall or early winter here in the southeast. They are normally not cultivated and must be harvested by cutting the plant and removing the grain or seed heads from the top of the plant. As with corn, the cutting and removal can be done with hand labor, but that's very slow and hard work, or it can be done with the help of machines. A modern machine in these early 20th century times is pulled by two mules to harvest the grain stalks. It cuts the grain and gathers it into shocks. This machine, later improved by adding a mechanism that ties the shocks with string, makes it easier to stack. The stacked grain can be left in the field to dry and store until the thresher makes a visit to the farm. Most small farms did not have their own threshers. Most small grain-producing areas had one farmer who owned a thresher and the tractor to power it. This person bartered his services of threshing small grain in exchange for a toll or part of the grain. In 1918, it was not uncommon for a thresher to be powered by a 45 horsepower steam engine tractor. If the tractor has an eagle on the front of it, you know it was built by the Case Tractor Company. The tractor is used to pull and turn as it runs the grain threshing machine. Steam engines are fueled by wood or coal that burns in a firebox. The fire heats the water until it steams under pressure, which drives the machine. Because water is a valuable commodity and has to be pumped from the ground, there are times when farmers forget to fill up the boilers of their steam engines. When a boiler runs low or completely out of water, you can count on there being a great and dangerous explosion. Until the baling machine was developed, all hay had to be handled loose with a pitchfork. It was stacked loose in the field in summer and hauled to hungry livestock in winter. That practice caused a lot of hay to ruin and decay. The new baler now allows the farmer to compress the hay and store it out of the weather. It's a great help, but it still requires a lot of work. The hay or straw has to be hand-fed in the machine for baling. Wooden blocks are placed between the bales. The bales are held together by a wire insert, which is tied by hand. The straw from the gleaning operation is a valuable item as it's used for bedding in stalls housing mules, horses, and milk cows. The straw provides the livestock a relatively dry stall. It captures the body wastes of the animals and is then hauled to the fields and gardens as a source of fertilizer. Peas, or cowpeas as we call them, are staples on the farm. In summer and early fall, peas are picked and hand-shelled before they're stored, cooked, and eaten. In the spring, dried peas are planted to grow vines, which the farmer harvests in the summer. It's a product known as pea vine hay. As with most crops, before the machine was invented for shelling, all the work was done by hand. But now in the early 1920s, we have a mechanical pea sheller made of wood. It's a great labor saver. Little is wasted on the farm. Syrup is an essential food item here on the farm. We use it as a natural sweetener. Sugarcane and sweet sorghum are grown to provide sweet juice used to make syrup. The cane stalks are squeezed to glean the juice. The juice is then placed in a large heated pot until its water content is reduced and the liquid concentrates the sugar content. Impurities are skimmed off during the cooking process to enhance the quality of the syrup. It takes about 6 hours to cook off the juice. The cooked cane juice yields only about a gallon of syrup from 10 gallons of juice. Quilts are essential on the farm, in the farmhouse on cold winter nights. Blankets are expensive, and money is hard to come by. Quilts are made from scrap cloth, with a great deal of craftsmanship and labor. Rural communities have quilting gatherings or parties, where the farm wives gather and pool their efforts to sew together various pieces of cloth. Feed and fertilizer sacks are also used as material for precious quilts. Farm wives often accompany their husbands to the feed store so they can pick out the feed sack print designs that best suit their fancy for quilt making. Good quilts take weeks of patient work and skill. Well-made quilts will surely become family heirlooms and collector's items. The blacksmith shop is vital on the farm. It's like a machine shop where tools are made and repaired, and the transportation needs of the farm are supported. Many farms have their own shop and blackie, another name for a blacksmith. A hot fire is essential for blacksmithing. A bellows inhales air and forces it out on the coals to increase the heat of the fire in the forge. The blacksmith makes a number of different items out of metal for the farm and farm home. Everything from hinges to horseshoes are crafted. The blacksmith occasionally enlists the help of other men on the farm to help with large projects like preparing a metal rim for a wooden wagon or buggy wheel. The rim is heated in the hot fire, which causes it to expand so it can fit over the wooden wheel. As the rim cools, it shrinks, which keeps it tight on the wheel. Wagon wheels are mostly made from oak or hickory wood, so they'll be strong and tough enough to survive our rough dirt roads and paths. Speaking of wheels, it's time for us to head back to the 21st century. We hope you've enjoyed this tour of the past down on the farm. It's easy to see how much machines have helped farmers become more efficient as they produce food and fiber for the rest of the world. If you would like to see these machines in action, we invite you to come to the annual Richland Creek Antique Tractor and Engine Show in Saluda County each year on the first weekend of November.